Greetings. Rahubat. Welcome all. I appreciate you tuning into the Actual Facts channel. My name is Dr. Doosua B for those that don't know, and just tuning in for the first time. Today, first and foremost, let me say this. We would like to always give reverence and thanks and appreciation to our deity, our God, our gods in flesh, who have incarnated in this day and time to teach you all, the 144,000, the Nagardinethu race, the black race on the planet, those that have been lost but now found asleep in the various parts of the globe under the hypnotic spell of religion, the spell of Leviathan. It's a hypnotic spell that has been cast upon you to keep you asleep and not accept the facts that have been hidden for so long. Today, as you know, in our lectures, monthly lectures, 3 times a month, we're going to touch on a topic that has been pretty much overlooked and unexplained throughout the religious world. The religious world tends to leave knowledge on the table that people have questions about and simply just skip over it as if it's not necessary for you to have this information. And so our job is to make clear to all the misinformation that the religious world has left on the minds of our people, and to break that spell and liberate you mentally as well as physically. We have to address each one of these topics the best way that we can, the way that our Father has done it and given to us as an obligation to teach the world this right knowledge. He's written over 1,500 books. His Excellency, our President-in-Chief, Dr. Malachi Z, who we affectionately refer to as God in flesh, to raise us up and make sure that we have all of the knowledge needed to make it up out of here and survive what's about to take place on this planet. You're in a very peculiar day and time. And because of that, the devil's time is up. So you're going to have a lot of events that are going to unfold on this planet in such a way that it's going to frighten a lot of people. And many are not going to be prepared for what is about to come. So our job is to make sure people are prepared mentally so you can have a clarity on what is taking place right around you. So today, this topic, the tree of knowledge of good and evil and the Garden of Eden, right? The immortality and this so-called fruit that the religious world has left ambiguous in its explanation. Dr. Malachi Z clearly explains a lot of this information in many of the publications. One particularly is called the Akasha Records, which is available. Who is the Serpent in Genesis, chapter 3, as well as the Flood, which is a Patrak, which is a series of publications also that the Father has written. Also, we have parts of the beginning, which is a actual facts. It's not an actual facts, but it covers a lot of came in the school of Wu Nuwap or Nuwapian schools that we have been taught by the Father in the various areas of the doctrine. The beginning book was one of those books that was written by him, and that covers the beginning of creation prior to what you would call Genesis. Genesis story is just a small area of history that is not even relevant to the black race insofar as it's not our story or our creation. However, we must touch on it in order to bring things and make things clear. Who are the characters in Genesis? Who is this serpent? Who is this Lord? Who are the beings that were cast out of the heavens or came down in Genesis chapter 5, the Bain Elohim, sons of God? So we're going to cover a lot of this, particularly this character that many refer to as the serpent or mislabeled as the devil or Satan, which is these words are not used in this text. So it's important for us to start here because the tree of knowledge and understanding what that tree is and the genetic line by which these breedings was taking place is vital for you to understand who you are and what part you play within these texts. There's many characters in that Genesis story, but we're going to let's key in on this serpent and let's key in on this Lord and the us in Genesis, and also where this garden was, how this garden was created, and why does the biblical text speak about a desolate land or a place that was without form and void, and why that chapter, which is only 6,000 years old, that story is considered to be the beginning of all of creation, falsely given that. Scientists, archaeologists, anthropologists, geneticists know that this Genesis story is only a certain time frame. It's not the beginning of all creation. And we went through these facts in many of the previous episodes. Well, what we have to do now is address these characters and the family of these beings and the genes by which they mixed in with the Adamites, the creation of Genesis, that mankind or kind of a man, how their seed is on the planet and where their seed is on the planet and how they've traveled and mixed in with other races. The Adamite race that was created in Genesis 6,000 years ago is not the creation again of all races, or especially the Nagardanatu or the Negroid race. The group of beings spoken of in this story, they have genes and they have family and they have a story of their own. The us in Genesis that came down and said, let us make man in our image. And right, they have a genetic line that has bred and mixed their genes in on the planet in many different chapters of the book. And this is covered as well in Let My Words Be Known, and we'll address where those PDFs, you can find those on our website, where the Father goes into detail of specific creations of the various breedings, Neanderthal, the Denisovians, the so-called ape man or caveman that has a genetic line as well. The missing link that's spoken of there. These breedings are specifically addressed in a Let My Words Be Known, but we're going to cover it in this explanation. Also, Genesis chapter 6, right, where 5 and 6, where these species were mixing in and creating demigods and right men of renown, or right, which is spoken of there in Genesis chapter 6, and the Adamites having daughters. But obviously we want to key in on this tree, because according to the biblical text, this tree was planted in the garden, right, that was made by these Elohim or these gods of this Genesis text. But they don't explain what this tree is, how this tree had the knowledge of good and evil inside of it, and what fruit it was. There's a lot of mythological stories that were created, even with the Adam's apple. When you hear about the Adam's apple, right, most people don't know that there's a story, that a lie that was told, that Adam bit, and when he bit the apple of the tree, of this tree of knowledge of good and evil, a piece of it got stuck in his throat. They say because this apple was stuck in his throat, all men now have what you call an Adam's apple. This is how it started. And so we know that's not the case, because it's a genetic process by which men or males, the masculine, has this Adam's apple, or this extended larynx cartilage that extends from the larynx or the voice box, that actually assists in having men have a deeper tone or in their speech. We have the father wrote a book about that as well. Ancient signs and speech is a master secrets that is available. So ultimately, we have to address those topics. Now, the ancients spoke about this tree, right? Or let's say this garden. They call it the Garden of Eden or Garden in Eden. According to these ancient texts, right? This tree of knowledge of good and evil in Mesopotamia, right, where they have described where this garden is, it was already known that it was in the middle, what you call Middle East or Mesopotamia, near the Fertile Crescent, in a place called Qatar, right? And you have Bahrain, these Mesopotamian countries, which is new Mesopotamia. Let's say this: what was known as Mesopotamia now has these new countries there that were came or born out of these Babylonians or Iranians or Persians that are now Iranians or Iraqis. These are descendants from this mixed seed of this Mesopotamian, Akkadian, and Ugaritic tribes that came out of this particular land. The word Mesopotamia means middle, right? Meso, middle, and then you have what you call Potamos, which is land. So literally between these lands, this is what, or between the rivers, as they say, the land of these Nile that split in Genesis that describe this garden. Now, this garden is spoken of in ancient texts, as we spoke about. These ancient texts spoke about the land in the land of Dilmun, right? In this land of Dilmun, you'll find this reference in Enki and Ninhursag. This is in the Sumerian paradise. This is dated around the 3rd millennium, where they speak about Enlil and Enki and this land that was so beautiful. The water was very sweet, and it became sweet by the creation of these gods. Who are these gods? We're keying in onto Enki and Enlil, these beings that were over these Elohim. And when you find out who Enki is, you find out who Enlil is, you'll understand that the conflict of the gods, these extraterrestrial beings spoken of, caused a tragic, let's say, event, that cataclysmic event that destroyed most of the lands in that area. It became very desolate. It became worthless. And this is the description of this land in Genesis chapter 1, verse 2, where you see it says the land was without form and void. So then after this formless and void land, these beings came and had replenished and began to grow this garden there. When you see this word desolate, right, in Genesis chapter 1, verse 2, this word form, right, without form, this Strong's number is 8414. And this word desolate doesn't mean it wasn't there. It just means that it was without it was unavailable for inhabitation because of the war that took place from Revelations chapter 9, where there was a war in heaven. Michael and his angel fought against the dragon, and the dragon prevaileth not, and they were cast down into the earth. Well, there was a war in these heavens. They don't explain what beings were at war, how this war took place, who was involved with the war, who was fighting. Did it affect the planet? It did affect the planet when these beings were warring in the heavens. These are ancient extraterrestrial wars between these two bloodlines, Enkyites and the Enlilites, and it still is going on today. Well, this area called Mesopotamia was left desolate. It was left without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep because of the carbon cloud that had covered and blocked out the earth's sun, the sun to the earth. It created a desolate area. The same way you go to after a war-torn environment is pretty much desolate. If it's a nuclear bomb or atomic weaponry is used, it will block out the sun, create radio radioactive environment where the land and the life forms of that particular land would become desolate. So you wouldn't see life in this area. So in Genesis, where it picks up that in this area that there was form and void and life, there was no life. And these beings, when they came here and they had to rebuild because of the project, Enki was responsible for heading this mission. Enki is the ruach, or the soul, that's spoken of in Genesis chapter 1, that hovered upon the face of the deep. And the reason why we have to cover who was responsible for the building of this garden and who were these beings in the garden, so you'll understand what the tree of life is and what it really meant, and how the religious world has been lying, obviously, to most people for the last 6,000 years. So when Enki came to the earth, he was of that in a large craft. They call it kabad. It's kabad in our language, that hovered upon the surface and saw that it was needed light. The beings that were replenishing the planet needed light. So this huge craft shone light into the atmosphere to rekindle or replenish and grow life again. This is not something new. Life is created and formed in many different ways. The most simplest example is a loaf of bread where it appears to be dead, lifeless, and then the Father explained that if you take water and put the conditions of that water in bread, and it will create mold, or mold will grow. Life will come from what appears to be lifeless. Well, the planet Earth is the same way. When these beings came to the planet after the war and this, what you call project, this Adamite project to create or breed a worker, Enki was responsible for that, and this took place several times over several years. Him being over the cherubim that you hear about in your book of the biblical text, the Old Testament specifically, Enki over these beings, and Enlil was over the cherubim. They were a part of this fleet of beings that had came to the planet for this project. Now, Enki was, because he was a water creature, these extraterrestrial beings are off-world, have many different types of characteristics and many different species of these beings. The characteristics, some are half reptilian, half water beings who often lived amongst mermaids. You are part water creature, being born in water, breathing water. So you're not distant, you're not a distant relative from these species. You are a water creature. And you could breathe and live in water for most of the beginning of your life, which was the first 9 months of your gestation period. These beings, extraterrestrial beings, are the Anunnaki that I'm in reference to, are part species water creature and part mammalia. So this being was responsible for that. And coming to the planet, he lived in the waters. And that's why the being who was writing about the story was actually in the water of this planet, a part of that species or part of the Elohim as well. And that being is known as Nin-Gizida, or the son of Enki. He had many different names in the ancient Mesopotamian records. He was known as a Seraph, where they get the word Seraphim, which comes from the word fire, or burning, Seraph, in the ancient text. It was adopted into the Genesis story and throughout Exodus, where you hear about these Seraphim. It was adopted from that language through Chaldean, which ain't from the land of Ur of Chaldees, where Abraham came from. So the language of Hebrew adopted many of the ancient textual languages, particularly the word Seraph, where you find the word Seraphim. Now, we'll get into that in the serpent being, which is why he was amongst the Elohim. He was not a fallen being who was cast out or was not amongst this group. He was amongst the group, and he was wise. And it says it in Genesis chapter 3 that he was the most cunning and most clever and wise being amongst the other Elohim. And he was welcomed amongst them because he was of that bloodline of Enki's side. Enlil, who was the son of Anu, El Elyon, the highest of that race, was also in the garden and was also a part of the project. However, this breeding of the Adamites, this new red ruddy race, was not something that the Enlilites or the cherubim wanted, because they didn't want them to be able to mix amongst themselves or breed amongst themselves. And this Lord in Genesis shows that when they began to breed and began to have sexual intercourse, breeding amongst themselves, creating Adamites, right, the seed of Seth, right, which was, or Enos, from Adam and or Eve and his or her husband. And she also had a child by one of the sons of Enlil, who was Nanar, this Lord that said she got a man from the Lord. These are breedings and genetics that is invading the planet by this Adamite and the raping of the cherubim or the Igigi Enlil seed, who raped them and bred another species. So we have to be able to untangle what this or tree or this genetic line, contrary to what most people think, that when they teach about this tree in the garden, they think it's an actual tree of fruit. No, it's the partaking or the engagement of the genes of these deities or these Elohim who were mixing in with the Adamites and other races on the planet, particularly the Adamite. Though this tree or this bloodline was extended down and given to the Adamites because they had mixed in with these overlords or their gods. And this is why they were given dominion. They were given dominion because they were given a certain amount of power or time to rule, because they had the genes of these deities within them, right? And they were given the time of 120 years, as you read in Genesis, again, chapter 6, where it says, right, that the Spirit of the Lord shall not always strive with man, for that he is also flesh. Let's read that. And I'm taking my time with this particular lecture so those that are tuning in can be clear, right? Because this is not something you want to misrepresent the Father's words and how he's explaining it in these actual facts. He does it very clear in order for us to understand what exactly is taking place. And as we touch on it and move forward with the lectures, it's going to become more and more apparent what exactly is going on. But if you read, right, where it says in verse 3, chapter 6, it says, and the Yahweh, or this living being, said, his spirit shall not always strive with man, for that he also is flesh. So it's letting you know that these beings are spirit and flesh. And we discussed that these Elohim or Anunnaki are able to become physical. This is confirmation here. And it says that shall not always strive with man, that for that he also is flesh, yet his days shall be 120 years. So that's the time span that these Adamites had allotted or was given the time to rule or live on the planet. That's different from the 6,000 year dominion that they were given. They were also given a time to rule as a race. But individually, they were given a time to live in the physical body, because they had mixed in with the deities and they received what you call the mafkuzet that we spoke about in previous episodes. The mafkuzet is the ability to extend the telomeres. So all of these breedings was taking place, and there was a lot of genetic exchange. Well, when you look at this land and these beings, when they came to build this, or let's say recreate or reconstruct, where they get the word Genesis from the word Barashith, which is a reconstruction time. It is not a time of the beginning of all things. It is a reconstructing period. Yes. Now, what happens is, to answer that question, he did have an umbilical cord. And we'll talk about that. The Father mentions the Adamites having umbilical cords because they were born from mothers, right? The daughters of the breedings of these Adamites, the feminine gave birth to many of the Adamites. So when you go down to right, this garden, let's speak about this garden again, and understand that they had created or reconstructed this part of the planet, and the story of the how the reconstruction takes place is actually found in Jeremiah. When you go to the book of Jeremiah, you'll see, right, Jeremiah chapter 4, this is what happened pre-Genesis. They tucked it away in Genesis, in the book of Jeremiah. And it says, I beheld the earth. This is verse 23. I beheld the earth, and lo, it was without form and void, and the heavens, and they had no light. This is the same verse from Genesis chapter 1, where it says it was without form and void. That word form there, again, is desolate. Strong's number 8441. If you look it up, you'll see it means toho, right? It means lie to waste or desolation, deserted or empty. It doesn't mean it didn't exist. It doesn't mean it was just created. It means it was desolate. And Jeremiah speaks about this. It says it was without form and void, and the heavens, and they had no light. Rahobat, everyone just coming in. It says, verse 24, I beheld the mountains, and lo, they trembled, and all hills moved lightly. 25, I beheld, and lo, there was no man. You see this word Adamite there. The same species that we're in reference to. It literally, the Strong's number 119 is speaking about a species, not necessarily a person. The person that you're in reference to, the male of the Genesis story, labeled Adam, had various names because of what was the events surrounding the breeding. He was known as Zakar, which is the rememberer. He was known as Kedman, right, because of he was placed within the garden, and he was also known as Adapa and Titi. These are the Sumerian names of this breeding. The word Adam came in from the race that was bred because there were many of them, and they became known as the species of the ground, the Adamites, who were red and ruddy, male and female created he them. So there was a plurality of the breedings of these species. Genesis is very vague in the explanation of who this race is and their genetic bloodline. But they were not supposed to have seed from their own. And that's what the curse came from, because they began to have sex amongst their own. And it was a being known as the serpent or Ningizida that taught them about this sexual procreation. And this is where the story picks up, where he went to the woman as opposed to the male. And it was knowledge of sexual procreation, right? And the knowledge of having sex to breed, right? Because this is a part of the Adamites, and all human beings breed through this sexual pleasure that was in the biological operation. That's part of natural nature, right? So, but this being Ningizida, who was aware of this Lord, who was of the Enlil side. I'm showing you these were two warring sides. This Ningizida, or the serpent being, was not fond of Enlil. They are not fond of his descendants, even though, right, Enki had a son who is Ningizida, and his brother is Enlil. It was Ningizida who was warring against Enlil and his seed. And this story is picking up the conflict. This Genesis story is picking up the conflict. That this serpent, right, this divine known as Nakash in Genesis, which means a divinator, didn't like Enlil, and it was informing Adam and Eve that this Lord Enlil was lying. And he was lying about the fact that they would die in the day they partook of this knowledge. And it wasn't that they would die. It was that they would become more aware, and in partaking of this seed or this fruit and partaking of this genetics of these gods, they will become as gods. And that's why it says in Genesis chapter 3, let's get to the verse 5, it says, for God does know that in the day ye partake, right? When you look at the word eat, right? A cow, or take in or consume this fruit or consume of this seed, then ye shall be as gods. You will be as who? Elohim. And it reads 430 in the Strongs. Now, what people are not aware of is that this feminine, in the communication with this serpent, this Nakash in the garden, right, and them being a part of this group, once she partook of this seed or engaged in this sexual activity, because they were naked, Adam and Eve were naked, and they didn't have shame. You have to remember that in that story, when they partook of the fruit, it says in Genesis 2, you go down to about verse 25, right? It says, and they were both naked, the man and his wife, and were not ashamed. So they didn't have the shame that human beings typically are involved with this religious doctrine teaches you about sex. They don't have the information about sex because their doctrine of Joshua of 2,000 years ago did not teach his congregation about sex, because according to him, he never had sex. So the religious world is void of any doctrine about sexual practices, particularly the Christian world, because they don't have the information from their so-called savior, right? Because there were no books about sexual encounters and the laws of sex other than the Torah. And so because they don't accept the Torah, and right, according to their doctrine, Joshua, right, when he came, it did away with the law. Therefore, they don't have to practice the Old Testament. All of the sexual commandments and understanding of the laws and the biological functions and the true knowledge of the erotica sexual activities and the knowledge of the red meat stone, which was taught in ancient Egypt in certain papyrus, the knowledge of how to, when you ingested certain genes of the deities, this was a way to receive this mafkuzet or this exotic matter that gave you extended life. This is why the deities didn't mix with mortals. They didn't have sex with mortals because giving them that extended life gave them a certain amount of power to become gods. And if these beings, these new creation, the Adamites, the Nagarthaneud, right, on this planet, if their deities didn't teach them how to have the knowledge and use the knowledge, they would abuse it, because the mental capacity would expand far larger than the average mortal in their conscious level. So when they partook of this knowledge or this mafkuzet or this fruit, they call it the nectar of the gods, right? There's many different ways you can receive this liquid gold. One of the ways is through breastfeeding. The feminine gives this liquid gold to the child. It's stored in the breast milk, and it builds the immune system, which eliminates or allows them to fight off various diseases, and it develops the brain. So it's in the liquids of the feminine and in the certain liquids of the male, if the male has been transformed and is a god in flesh or a deity in flesh. This is one of the components or biological makeups of these gods. They have this mafkuzet in their genetics, this monatomic metal or powder in its form in the DNA that extends the telomeres. Well, this is what Eve was partaking of in this garden when she involved herself with this intelligent, wise being that wanted to help Adam and Eve against the Lord, this Lord who was lying to them, telling them that the day you eat thereof, you shall surely die. And that's why when you read verse 17, right, of that same chapter 2, it says the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. What is the knowledge? The knowledge is knowing good beings from bad, knowing the seraphim from the cherubim. This new Adamite creation did not know that this Lord was the evil one. They didn't know that he was the negative one. They didn't know he was lying to them. It was the serpent that informed them that he knows the day you partake of this knowledge, or you engage with and partake of this fruit or nectar of the gods, you shall be as gods, and you will know who's who is who amongst the gods. Before then, most human beings right now on the planet don't know who's evil and who's of the good gods. You think all of them are the same ignorance that the Adamites, the spell that they've cast, that was cast on them, is also cast on human beings through religion. Because when you look throughout the books, you can't tell whether this Lord, who was asking for sacrifices and blood, asking for you to kill and all types of cannibalism, you don't know which one is good or bad. The same thing happened in this Genesis story. Eve and Adam didn't know that this Lord was of the disagreeable, of the cherubim side. And this serpent or wise being was trying to inform them and trying to actually help them who this being was. And that's why this being got vexed when he found out. He said, who told you to eat of this, partake of this nectar? Who told you to partake of this knowledge and knowing who's good and who's bad? Because when they did partake of it, when you see this Lord had called out, right? When you go to Genesis chapter 6, it says that the Lord said, no, let's go back, back to 3, where it says, and when the woman saw that when the woman saw that the tree was good, right, for food, and that it was pleasant to the eyes, and the tree to be desired to make one wise, she took of this nectar, took of this fruit, because they don't tell you what it is. It's not what you think. It wasn't an apple off a tree, because apples don't have knowledge of good and evil. So you already know that it wasn't an apple. And if it was an apple, why would their Lord place the knowledge of all existence of good and evil inside of an apple, when you say at the same time the knowledge that you need is in the Bible? If the knowledge you need is in the Bible, then, right, which is a book that is 66 books, 72 books, 82 books in some text, why is it that you can't just partake of the nectar or this fruit and have all of the knowledge that's needed? Because they make it appear in this text that the religious world, because they want you to fight against your Egyptian deities, who Nin-Gizida was, a wise being known as a serpent. The reason why our ancestors use, right, the serpent symbol as a symbol of intelligence, as a symbol of wisdom. And you know that because it's spoken of, right, in various verses of the biblical text, when you see that this Lord God, right, let's go back to this serpent that was a symbol used by Moses. The symbol was used by Moses in many chapters. And first, it was used by not first. It was used referenced in John 3:14. And as Moses lifted up the serpent in the wilderness, even so must the Son of Man be lifted up. So that means that there's some knowledge or the wisdom in resurrection with this serpent symbol. Otherwise, why would it be a symbol of healing within the medical field? In the medical world, amongst all medical associations, throughout all doctors, all hospitals, in their text of learning, when it addresses medicine or healing, they make reference to this serpent, because this serpent represented Zahutwi or Nin-Gizida, who was the wise being that had all of the knowledge for mortals within ancient Egyptian text. He was known as Hermes to the Greeks, right? And if you make reference, you see this in reference in Gods of the Egyptians on page 402, you'll see that. This serpent is used, and also again, like I said, in Exodus chapter 4, where it says it was cast to the ground, right? Moses cast it to the ground, and cast it to the ground, and it became a serpent, and Moses fled from before it, But you see in Numbers, the Lord sent fiery serpents. He didn't send a cross. He didn't send a crescent. He sent a serpent. So the Lord acknowledged these serpents among the people, and they bit the people as much of the children of Israel. And then this Lord comes back and says, use this same serpent as a healing symbol in verse 9. And Moses made a serpent of brass and put it on a pole. So they acknowledge this serpent as a healing symbol known as Nehushtan. This is what's used in 2 Kings chapter 18. They use it as Nehushtan. This serpent was a symbol of healing. It was a symbol of knowledge. It was a symbol of wisdom. And the Elohim, or the Anunnaki, hated this serpent being because of his knowledge and wisdom. And he informed this Adam and Eve seed, or Adama or Adafa and Titi, that this Lord was lying, because you can become as gods. And that's what our Father, who is Nin-Gizida in this day and time, is informing you all, that you can become gods. You are the deities on the planet. However, the Lord of this religious text wants to keep you under a spell, and their deities, their Allahs, their Jehovahs, their Yahwehs don't want you to become gods and become aware and have the knowledge of the heavens to make it out of here into the heavens from the abode from where your ancestors come from. These Anunnaki want the planet and their religious minions, their reverends and imams and Jew and so-called rabbis, to keep them worshiping Enlil and Nanar as their god. That's why they keep this fire being, this being of the the lamp, or this the burning bush, right? This spirit of fire that comes from the heavens. This is Nanar and their disagreeable cherubim, and Enki and his seed, the serpent seed, Nin-Gizida, is trying to inform you all in this day and time, still hated by those lords, still hated by the religious world. And this is why they incarcerated and attacked him again. This is a doctrine that they teach in their book. In Ezekiel's 29, they teach that you must speak out against the Egyptian seed. You must speak out against this Nin-Gizida, this wise being and his seed. And if you convert to these religious doctrines, you will speak out against this serpent. You will speak out against this wise being. Yet they use it throughout their books. Right? Now, why do they use it throughout the books? Because they are aware that the moment this being incarnates and teaches human beings, then the power and control that these Anunnaki have over these human beings will disappear. They will come out against you. This is why they said, well, arrest him, because he started teaching you about who the real extraterrestrial overlords and what their purpose was and how evil they are and their flesh eaters and their behaviors to their Adamite race, as opposed to you as the Nagarda that do, the 144,000, who your deities are. And now you begin to know good from evil. This is why, if you read chapter 3, verse 22, this Lord, once he found out that these beings were now aware that he was not as good and the good guy, what did he do? It says, and the Lord said, behold, he found out. Right after verse 21, we're in verse 22. Adam also, and to his wife did the Lord God make coats of skin and clothe them. He clothed them after the sexual activities. Before they was not ashamed. Right? But let's go to verse 22. It says, and the Lord God said, right, behold, the man has become as one of us. So he's confirming that after they ate the fruit, after they partook of the tree of knowledge, He's confirming what the serpent told them. He's confirming that he lied. He's confirming that this serpent was not a bad person. Because if he's informing these beings on how to become as gods, and you say and you acknowledge that this God was, you were created, man was created in the image and after the likeness of these gods, why is it negative or bad to become as gods? Or they weren't created in the image and after the likeness of God. Genesis 1:26 would be in question, because it wasn't only until after they partook of the fruit did they become as gods, as Genesis says that the serpent expressed to them. So which one is it? Were you created in the image and after the likeness of God, or the Elohim? Or did the serpent inform Adam and Eve, this is the true formula to become as gods? This Lord, he knows. This is the so-called, if this is the enemy of this Lord, and he is not welcome on the planet, he was cast out, as they say. They say, the religious world, this serpent is the devil. He's not referred to as a devil in this text. He's not referred to as Satan in this text. In fact, Satan doesn't come out until Chronicles. The word devil doesn't show up until the word in Leviticus chapter 7. You don't see the word devil or serpent in here. Or Satan. You do see the word, the divine being, which the Nakash is translated as the divinator, one who's able to, who knows the secrets. But it says right here, it says in verse 6, let's go to verse 5. This serpent says, for God or Elohim does know. He's saying that these beings know that in the day you eat thereof, you partake of this knowledge that I have, this knowledge of this mafkuzet, you will be as gods. You eat thereof, then your eyes shall be open. Not only will you be as gods, and your eyes will be open to what? To see who these beings are. Your eyes are now being opened by this same being, Nimgazida, by Zahutwi, to know this is who these beings are that you're worshiping on the planet. These extraterrestrials. Listen, Eve, this being knows that the day you eat thereof, your eyes will be open, and you will be as gods, and you will know good from evil. And what happens? And when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was pleasant to the eyes, and a tree to be desired. You know it's not a tree because no one desires trees. The only desire a woman has in reference is to sexual activity, right? Or desires for the sexual act itself. The climax, the orgasm. That's the desire to what? It enlightens, for the feminine specifically, it awakens them when they have an orgasm and a sexual encounter. It does something to their being. It opens them up, and they do become goddesses. This is spoken of in our doctrine. This is the science of Wu Sabat. If you're ready for it, the Father is giving it to us. You just have to be ready for what really has been hidden from us. And that your eyes shall be open, knowing good and evil. And this would happen. And when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was a pleasant to the eyes, and a tree to be desired to make one wise, she took of it thereof and did eat, and gave also unto her husband, and the eyes of them both were open. Their eyes became open, and they knew that they were naked. So they knew these things now. They had knowledge now. And what happened in verse 8? And they heard the voice of the Lord God walking in the garden. This Lord was not aware of this event that took place. He's not an all-knowing God, an all-knowing being that the religious world has been lying to our people about. This being is walking in the garden, right? When you look up the word halak, walk, you see it's translated in many different ways. To walk, to come, to go along. Walking in the garden, in the cool of the day. They use a specific word for temperature to let you know that in order to feel coolness, in order to feel heat, the sun, the elements have to touch your body. So yes, this is recorded. Yeah, so it has to touch your body. I'll get to your questions when I open up. I want to make sure this gets out to the people, because the Father goes over this several times and he's redundant in this, so you'll understand that this, when this Lord and calling out to Adam, what was Adam, what was his statement? He said he became afraid now. He wasn't afraid before. Why was he afraid now? He not because he partook of the fruit and he felt like he was doing something negative. He was afraid because he saw that this being was a liar. He understood that, damn, he lied to us, because I see now. I am aware. The serpent did give us this knowledge, and now he did give us this nectar. Now we are transformed as gods. Therefore, I'm aware that this Lord, this Enlil and his seed was lying the whole time. So if he's a liar, he's also a killer. The reason they know he was a killer, because he brought skins to clothe them, animal skins. So he was also killing. So not only was this being this, you didn't see the part about making animal skins? Yes. It says in verse 2, right? It says, and the Lord, right? And rib, it says, right, moving forward. Let me find this animal skins quote for you, so you can see how this Lord gave, right? 3:21. And Adam also, and to his wife, the Lord God, this Lord Elohim, made coats of skin. This coats of skin was showing them that, yes, okay, he was a killer, he was a liar. He lied about this fruit. So he hid himself. Now, what happens moving forward once he found out that this Lord had found out that Adam or Eve had partook of this fruit? He says, the Lord called out unto Adam and said, where are you? Where are you? That's not an all-knowing being. Stop trying to make your God into this being that everyone should bow and be afraid of. The only person I fear is God, that he's all-powerful, all-knowing, everywhere at all times. No, he's asking a question. Don't say he already knew, because you're going to have to explain, if you already knew, what was the purpose. And then you have to add on to it more lies that they typically do in the religious world. Says, well, he just wanted to see. If he wanted to see, he didn't know. You can't say he wanted to see what Adam was going to say, or he went testing Adam to see what was going to take place, because then you're limiting your God and you're making him exactly what the serpent was trying to explain to the world, to Adam and Eve. And this Ningizita, this wise being, is trying to explain to us in these actual facts that this being is not an all-knowing being. He asks, who told you, right? Not who told you. He didn't get that far yet. He said, where are you? He said, and Adam said, I heard thy voice, right, in the garden, and I was afraid because I was naked and I hid myself. How was he naked? How was he afraid because he was naked, when in chapter 2 it says they were naked and they had no shame? How is that possible? That's because this story, in its, let's say, limited text, they're showing you who this being is. He says, this Lord says, this Nanar character, or this Enlil, they were all together. He said, who told thee that thou was naked? That's another question. Now think about it. Why would someone have to tell them they were naked when they were acknowledging that they were naked, and you already know that they were naked, unless you were naked, right? If you had clothes, if the Lord had clothes, Adam and Eve did not have clothes. Can't they see that they're naked? So that's a ridiculous question. Why would you ask who told you were naked if you had on clothes? If I have on clothes and someone is naked in front of me, you don't have to say anything. You can look and say, this person's naked, person looks at you, I'm clothed. So that's already understood. Why is he asking these questions? And why is he acting like he doesn't know that the serpent is in the garden? Right? How does he not know that his enemy is there? What happens in the next verse? And he said that this Lord Nanar, right, being Enlil, told thee, who told thee that you was naked? Hast thou eaten of the tree wherefore I commanded thee that thou should have eat? Should have not eaten? Have you eaten of the tree which I commanded you thou should not eat? Have you eaten of it? But I thought if you partake of this tree, you would die. That's not more proof that you know he's lying. He was a liar. Because he didn't say that the moment you partake of the tree, then you would know you're naked. That you're going to know, right, good from evil. He said you're going to know you're going to surely die. So why are you assuming that because they're naked, they ate of the fruit, unless you left that part out? In other words, he didn't see them dead. The only conclusion of seeing a person dead based on the story is that they ate the fruit and they died. They did what I told them not to do. You wouldn't assume if a person is standing next to them that because they're naked, they ate of the fruit, because that's not what you told them. You told them if they ate of the fruit, they would surely die. Why are you assuming that because they are naked that they ate of the fruit? That's what he says. He says, who told you thou was naked? Have you eaten of the tree which I commanded you not? What do you mean have I eaten of the tree? You told me if I ate of the tree, I'll be dead. I'm not dead, am I? So how did I eat of the tree? Unless you left that part out, and he's confirming that. This is how you have to look into it when you're dealing with right knowledge and wusabat. And as a Nuwapian in the state of Nuwapia, you will always think in this manner when you're reading these texts, because it's right here, clear, right in front of you, once that fog of six ether religious doctrine is removed. The man said, the woman in verse 12, the woman whom thou gave to be with me, she gave me of the tree and I did eat. And the Lord God said, this Yahweh of the Elohim, that means that it's one of the beings talking out of the group again. Anytime it says Yahweh, which is Strong's number 3068, that this Jehovah or Yahweh as a living being, that's all, it just means a living being. It's not a name. I constantly go back and forth over with the Hebrew Israelites that says, oh, that this being, that's his name. And it's like, no, that's not his name. It's a title that became a name because you weren't given his name any longer because of the transgressions of the Adamites and you mixing in the Adamites, not you per se, the Adamites mixing in with you and you mixing in with them. Right, they lost these names in the translation, so you don't know these names of the names of these lords. The Lord God, right? Let's move to 13. What is this that thou hast done? And the woman said, the serpent beguiled me. Right, so seduced me. That's what it says, seduction or seduction. And I did eat. And the Lord God said unto the serpent. So now the serpent must be standing there. How are you having a conversation with these characters right there? Where did you go find the serpent? Did you go chase him down in the garden? Did you ask where the serpent was? What serpent are you talking about? How is he familiar with the serpents? Because they were all amongst this group with this experiment in this project of this laboratory known as this Garden of Eden, where they were breeding an Adamite and two brothers, one who was Inky, the other Enlil, that were over the project. Inky wanted to prove that he was able to breed this Adamite. That was the whole project. That was the whole thing. That was the entire point. He was right. They were only made to prove, Inky to prove that as a Yahweh, he was more intelligent than his brother. because they were trying to mine for gold and they weren't able to find a solution to what was taking place in their atmosphere. And the event of them coming into this atmosphere, this planet, which happened 44,000 years ago for Inky, and 400 thousands of years they've been coming back and forth, these extraterrestrial beings breeding this Adamite. This is the story and how it went haywire, because the Enlil seed saw them and started having sex with them, and then they bred their seed into the seed of these Adamites in their bloodline. This is why their dominion was up in 2000, and they only had a certain amount of time because they were not a part of original creation. However, this serpent being was trying to assist them by giving them the knowledge and this information of becoming a god, as this Tahuti had done thousands of years for humanity on the planet. He comes and he teaches different beings in different cultures, specifically coming out of Makmet, Egypt, where he had his temples set up on the 11th, I think 12th cataracts, where you had the temple of Tahuti there, right, who assisted Harad or Horus and judging the battle between him and Satuk, and the deities of ancient Egypt, who had their conflicts amongst their gods as well. So these are the conflicts amongst the gods, and that book is available. Just email for those that are not aware. Yes. The serpent is a deity. He's amongst the deities. He was amongst these gods. He was considered a wise one. Again, if you're just coming in, this symbol was used and is still being used. Right? So let's see if I can, let's go back. So to the origin of this, the origins of the word, yeah, he was not a Satan. He was not Satan. The word Satan comes from the word, right, which adversary. It's a Hebrew Strong's word that means accuser or adversary, and you'll find it used in the book of Numbers 22:22. You'll find it used in 22:32, which means to withstand. That's what the word Satan means. The word Satan is not in Genesis chapter 3. So he was not an adversary to this Lord. That's not used there. It's used 19 times throughout the book, and it's used in the book of Job 1:2. It occurs 27 times in 23 verses as Strong's number 7854. So that word is not used there as Satan. The word devil is not used in the book of Genesis chapter 3 at all. It's not used in Genesis or in the book of Exodus. You find the word devil for the first time, as we spoke about, in 17:7. I said 17, correction. 17:7 under the Strong's number 8165. And it's not even used as something that's evil. I don't follow these religious definitions because they were introduced into Egypt. So I don't have a preference on a specific word because I'm not triggered by these titles. The Father has already informed us that once you get into the words of the book, you'll have clarity. So the word devil is not used as a evil being. In some instances, yes, but the first time is used for a word goat, literally shaggy being, in Leviticus 17:7. We can go there real quick. When you look at Leviticus 17:7, this is the first time you see the word devil, and it's translated from the word devil, is translated from the Hebrew Strong that means shaggy or he-goat or kid. So they translated this word sa'ir is the word. Sa'ir is shaggy. I don't know why the translators translated it to devil there. You see it, pull it up. You see the word shaggy, sa'ir, is translated as devil in that verse. However, it's not translated as devil in all of the verses. In one verse, 28 times, or one word 28 times, the word kid. So this word shaggy is translated as kid as well. And that's why they call the word goat, or sometimes goats, kids. Why? Because the goat was a symbol of a type of devil, the he goat, which was a character of Mesopotamia, a hybrid of a half man, half hairy creature that we spoke about in the other episode, who was the serpent and the other creatures of the Bible. It's also translated as hairy. Now, what's interesting, this word shaggy or sa'ir being translated to goat, to devil, it's also translated to Esau. So this is what you have to understand, that the translators decided where and how to translate it, specific words from Hebrew and how they'll be used in English. And not every translation of the Hebrew word is the exact English word. And when you read the word Esau in one verse, where the twin brother of Jacob, you see that the translated word to Esau is translated as devil in another verse. That's why you're confused. That's why they had to create a character with a pitchfork and a tail, because the beings that of the cherubim side, they would come down as devils and people would worship these beings. No, one was Baal Hadad. They would give sacrifices to these various beings. One was Nanar. He is the real devil. So another place where you find the word, okay, so we covered that, right? The word Satan and the word devil. So don't let people commonly make the mistake when you're talking to a person and say, so what happened in the Genesis? And the person say, well, the devil tricked. That's not what it says. If you go to Ezekiel chapter 29, I'm going to show you where the Father explains how in this day and time, the world will be speaking out against the Egyptian deities because they've converted to the worship of Enlil and these disagreeable Anunnaki. That the religious world will constantly have an issue with Egypt, even though their Yahweh sent their God, all of their prophets there, sent Joshua there for protection, sent Moses there for wisdom and information, sent Jacob there to avoid the famine, sent Abraham land and got a land. Abraham received land there. The so-called Israelites or Hebrews came into Egypt, an area called Goshen, lived amongst us for 430 years, came out as a mixed seed, which means they were Egyptians as well. So the so-called Hebrew Israelites, they say we're Hebrew Israelites. You're not a pure Hebrew seed, because according to your text, you mixed in with the Egyptians and you came out as a mixed seed. So you all amongst coming out of Africa, and your Yahweh sent your gods, your prophets, all of the learned wisdom came into Egypt and sat at the feet of the wise Ningizida and Zahutwi, who was the deities that were teaching the true creation story, the true sciences of the universes within our ancient mystery schools. Your prophets of your book learned from them. But the doctrine that, right, let's go to 29, I think it's 29:3, right? It says, speak. This is Ezekiel. So you'll understand why is there so much conflict or confusion with the religious world in Egypt. Why they say, oh, y'all have these types of gods, but yet you see these arguments from the religious world. They're not knowing in their mind is a spell from this particular verse. Speak and say, thus said the Lord Yahweh. This is Nanar, Enlil, and his seed. Behold, I am against thee, the Pharaoh, king of Egypt, the great dragon that lieth in the midst of his own rivers. They're literally calling the pharaohs of Egypt Tanit. or serpents or dragons. They're calling these beings, these pharaohs of Egypt, that. They called Zahutwi, Ningizida, a dragon or a serpent being. This is their doctrine. It says, let me read that again so you'll understand that this is the doctrine of the religious world. And that's why you're having such a hard time acknowledging when you hear about the serpent and the wisdom that he had and the information he was giving to this new creation, that's this mankind, and warning them about the Lord, is conflicting because the layout religious doctrine that you've accepted is belief systems and is full of lies. So when you hear these actual facts, it makes so much sense. It's like, how could we have been deceived this much? It's because they have a doctrine that was taught from Genesis, from the beginning, when it says, I will put enmity in between thy seed, the serpent, and his descendants, and the woman's seed. The serpent seed and his bloodline, his Egyptian family, would be warring against Eve's seed, or enmity between Eve's seed. And because the doctrine of this religious lord, this monotheistic, right, spellbinding deities from their bloodthirsty descendants, speaks out against these pharaohs of Egypt, the deities of ancient Egypt. And you read it here again. Let me re-emphasize, because you'll understand why this is taking place. Behold, I am against thee, Pharaoh, king of Egypt, the great dragon that lieth in the midst of the rivers, which have said, my river is mine own, and have made it for myself. Let's go back to verse 2. This is where I should have read first. Son of man is speaking about the Adamites. The descendants, listen to this closely. The descendants of the Adamites. This verse is telling the Adamites, the creation of the Elohim of the Anunnaki of Genesis, the kind of man. This verse is speaking to their descendants. Son of the Adamites, set your face against the Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and even prophesize against them and against all of Egypt. So today, when we resurrect Tamaray of the West, Egypt of the West, these overlords or gods that want to spellbind you and keep you from becoming gods again and lining in with your ancestors, they followed this verse. They spoke out against the Pharaoh, our Aphrodite, our deity. They spoke out against him. They created a case against him. They propagated to the world against him and prophesied against him. Oh, he ain't never getting out. He was this. He was this is what that doctrine teaches. So what you're seeing is not by coincidence. It's not an accident that these people around the world, that because their religious doctrine is falling apart, because their gods hasn't come help them, and because we are now, our deities are assisting you, the Nagardanatu, the 144,000 are assisting you to eliminate these foreign belief systems, and their gods now are showing themselves as weak because they're not helping their followers. They're not removing diseases. They're not removing poverty. They're not removing AIDS. They're not removing any cancers. They're not removing the devil, their devil, because they are responsible for making the devil. But their judgment amongst them is not going to help you because you're still following them. You're still worshiping them. And you still don't get any help. Your prayers still don't get answered. Your money still doesn't come in the way you need to. You're still living in a violence-filled environment. You're still being demarginalized because of the economic structure. No help is coming to the Nagardanatu Africans who are still worshiping their gods. The moment you align back to your ancestors that bred you and place your seed here on the planet is when you receive your help. And you align yourself and chant and pray to your gods, to your bloodline, and respect them the way you're supposed to respect them, the way you respect your grandmother, the way you respect your great-grandmother, respect your entire bloodline that goes back to ancient Egypt. Your bloodline is being talked about and hated because Enlil and his Nanar and Ninherta, and that seed, right? They're just disagreeable. That's just their nature. So they have no liking towards the African race. So they allow you to become enslaved. If you go to their houses of synagogues and churches, they allow you to become dead mentally. Most of the religious world, they're dead mentally. They don't have anything new to look for. They don't create anything new because they're dead. Why? Because they're reading dead books. They're acknowledging dead prophets. They're looking for dead places after they die to get their pie in the sky and live in a place where other dead people are. So there's nothing alive within the religious world. Everything is about killing and murder and sacrifice and bloodshed and jihad, and all of these things is from religious doctrines. But the tree of life that the Father is trying to give us through these actual facts in Patarak will awaken you, and that's why you feel alive hearing this word. That's why when you read it, it's a new awakening, because like we spoke about before, it's creating neurons, creating neuroplasticity in the brain to allow neurological pathways to create and grow your being. And now scientists are speaking about it more. Let's say brain surgeons and neurologists are speaking about it. If you check out our episode where we talk about it, it goes into the details and the science behind it, and you growing as a new being, as a Nuwapian. This is what the Father came to give. The tree of life is the genetics of your seed and the genetics of the Adamites. When they were allowed to have sex and allowed to create a descendancy that you read in the book of Luke. If you go to the book of Luke, chapter 3, you'll see the bloodline of the Adamites, and this is their tree of life. Verse 23. The same thing happened with Noah. Noah's genes was found perfect in his generation. Therefore, his genetics was protected because he had the seed of these Anunnaki in his 2/3 Anunnaki, and so his seed was perfected, actually protected. They used perfect because he had the deep genes of their gods, and this is why he was transformed as a illuminated being, because he was a shapeshifter. And this is why Ham, when he went into the tent, he saw him in that state, and he wasn't supposed to see him in a transformed state. That's why Noah, Utnapishtim, woke up and said, "Curse be Canaan." You wasn't supposed to see these beings in the transformed state. This is why they said in Exodus, you can't look upon the face Fadim of the Lord and live, because you would be, it's total fear of what you saw. The shape-shifting element, a part of these beings, reptilian type creatures that are millions of years more advanced. But you'll see the bloodline of the Adamites right here, which is the tree of life. From them, you have a tree of life as well. Your tree of life and of knowledge of good and evil doesn't come from the Adamites, their overlords. Your tree of life, your tree or genetic structure, phylogenetic tree. Anyone knows about genetics, when they talk about a tree, they talk about the descendancy and them passing on the genes of the deities in your blood. And this is what you have to reactivate. But let's read Luke chapter 3. It says, and Jesus himself began to be about 30 years of age, as was supposed, the son of Joseph, which was the son of Heli, which was the son of Mattai, which was the son of Levi, which is the son of Melchi, which is the son of Janna, which was the son of Joseph, which was the son of Matthias, which was the son of Amos, which was the son of Nahum, which was the son of Esai, which was the son of Negai, right? Or Negi, which was the son of Meth, which was the son of Matthias, which was the son of Semei, which was the son of Joseph, which was the son of Judah, which was the son of Joanna, which was the son of Risa, which was the son of Zorobabel, which was the son of Salathiel, which was the son of Neri, which was the son of Melchi, which was the son of Adi, which was the son of Kosam, which was the son of Alamodiam, which was the son of Ir, which was the son of Hosea, the son of Eliezer, the son of Joram, which was the son of Mathath, which was the son of Levi, the son of Simeon, the son of Judah, the son of Joseph, the son of Jonah, the son of Eliakim, which was the son of Meliah, which was the son of Menan, which was the son of Mathatha, which was the son of Nathan, the son of David, the son of Jesse, the son of Obed, the son of Boaz, the son of Salmon, the son of Nason, the son of Aminabab, the son of Aran, the son of Esron, the son of Phares, the son of Judah, the son of Jacob, the son of Isaac, the son of Abraham, the son of Thara, the son of Nachor, the son of Saruk, the son of Gau, the son of Pelech, the son of Hebar, the son of Selha, the son of Canaan, the son of Aphaxad, the son of Sem, the son of Noah, the son of Lamech, son of Methuselah, Enoch, Jared, Malaliel, the son of Canaan, the son of Enos, which was the mortal, the son of Seth, the son of Adam, the seeds of the Adamites, which was the bane of the Elohim. This is their tree of life. You're not in this bloodline. So when you try to tie yourself into this gene, you can't, because this is the Adamite's blood. And that's why they say, which was the son of Elohim or Theos. How was Adam the son? Because he had the genes of these beings. So your descendancy is different. They call it Shajar, Shalel, Anak, right? The tree of life, Shajar, Pas Shajar, which is tree, Shalel, right, of Anak. In our Sabbatic language, tree of life is in the genes. It was in the mitochondria of Eve, right? And the 6,000 years, they call it the backbone. Now, what's interesting, the Father explains that the reason why, right? The reason why, I see your questions. Make sure you put your questions in. If I'm not paying attention to the chat, because I want to make sure this information get out. They use the menorah. Y'all know what the menorah is. You seen the menorah, right? Now, typically, the menorah was used, right, to as a symbol of 7 days. But the real symbol of it is the 6,000, 3 on one side, 3 on the other. The original menorah, not the new menorah, right? The menorah they use, that 3 on one side, 3 on the other, and the one in the middle, it represents the 6,000 years, because one day to the Lord is like 1,000. One day to the Lord is like 1,000 years to the Adamites. So when you see the menorah that the Jews use, they're acknowledging that there's 6,000 years. The 7,000 years is from 2,000 to the year 3,000. We're in the year the last millennium, from 6,000 to 7,000, which is 2,000 to 3,000. Let me repeat that again. 4,000 years ago, BC, is the creation of their race, to 2000 AD, which was 26 years ago, is 6,000 years. Every day to the Lord, or their gods, Elohim, their deities, is 1,000 years to the Adamites. So when you see the menorah, the 1,000 years per candle, you do it times 6, you get 6,000 years. This is the true, and it looks like a rib cage. Why? Because the bone marrow, the rib cage, the blood, the bone, the Adamites breeding was bred, their dominion or their genes was bred to live or exist only for 6,000 years as a wicked seed on the planet. Right? Because of their wickedness that they became, it says, and man became. Look at that, Genesis chapter 6, verse 5 again. And God saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every imagination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil. So these Adamites, they were already evil. They was known to be evil continuously. This is talking about their creation. And it literally says the wickedness of the Adamites. Again, that same word. Remember that Strong's number 120. That's a good question. How come they had the power to have dominion? They didn't have they were given they were given power because one, that was the old cycle. Yes, I'm gonna make it clear because that's a good question. A lot of people say, well, why was they given power if they were evil and wicked? That's a very good question. The Adamites, right? They began to disobey the commandments. It wasn't that they were doing what they've been doing to other races. They started that. They were confined to a specific area to live, and placed in an environment that was conducive for their existence. The Caucasus or Caucasus Mountains in Turkey and Haran, and they were forbidden to mix their seeds with anyone else. They were forbidden to go into other people's lands. This is why they had Levitical laws and commandments that they were supposed to follow. They weren't supposed to derogate from the laws from their gods to keep them under, because they started losing control over them. This was one thing that Enlil didn't want them to start mixing amongst themselves, and they started breeding amongst themselves. And when they began to breed amongst themselves, they started having thousands of them. They started mixing, and they began to go out of control. And this was the conflict between Enki and Enlil. So they were confined to a specific area, a cold environment where the temperature was not as hot. Then the garden that your race, your overlords, your deities, gave you Afafre'ekau, the land of Africa, in order to live in an environment that was conducive for your biological makeup and your genetic structure as a being that was having solar panels in your body, which is your eyes, and as a radio transmitter frequency to absorb the frequencies from the sun and the heat. You were able to heat your body up by taking in the sun rays and the form of photosynthesis. And you were an herbivore in the green zone. The green zone was the Garden zone, the African, the Caribbean areas, the tropical environment. That was your zone. They were given the red zone, which was the cold environment. And they were to come into the Garden land, the Africans' race land. But they violated, and they began to come into the land because they had to mix in every so often, every 300 years. They had to mix in or they would die out. So they began to violate and set up what you call blood banks. You call them slave ports. They were blood banks set up by their secret societies that will allow them to drink the blood of the deities, and both white blood, which was your semen, and your red blood, right? They take it in the semen as well. This is why the feminine of the various races often mix in with the African race to get the blood, the genes, because it assists them in their genetic structure by strengthening their genomes, right? And so they would set up blood banks, but they wasn't supposed to go into those lands. But they already had the telomeres of 6,000 years within their genetics. And it wasn't like their deities wasn't trying to eliminate them. They were trying to eliminate them several times through diseases. They would send diseases and plagues to the planet. They would poison the air and create temperature, weather phenomena, extreme heat, extreme cold, to try to eliminate them. The same way human scientists in their experiments in laboratories, sometimes they have an experiment that goes haywire and goes out of control, and they let a species that they bred into the environment. It's a hybrid. It's many of these vegetables and fruit and animals that are hybrids that exist on the planet today. Genetic experiments is not something new. It's been being done all the time. Mesopotamia was a hotspot for genetic experiments. And this is why you had so many different, when you go into the wall under the temples of Belbek and the temples of Nanar, the temples of Ishtar and other deities there. They have many deities temples. You'll see various creatures on the wall. What seraphim is one, which is your seraph being, which where they got the wings from. When you see wings on the cherubim, these are beings from the Mesopotamian Anunnaki breedings that took place. A lot of them were escaped from the laboratories, and you had all types of dragons and mermaids and what do you call Sa'ir, the goat men. When you think they get, look up the Pliny the historian and check out some of his history books, and you'll see he mentions all types of creatures that were recorded in that time because they were breeding various hybrids for different reasons. The same way human beings were beginning to play with genetic experiments. So they were given 6,000 years to rule, never to be created again. But the 6,000 year time was already, and that's a very short time frame. You asked a good question, but it's not as long as you think to these extraterrestrials. A day is like 1,000 years. So 1,000 years, 6,000 years is 6 days. The same amount of time it took to replenish the planet. So don't look at it as a long time. If you look at it from their perspective. But also another reason is because the old cycle, the moon cycle, which we were in, is where the sixth ether was ruling. Last 6,000 years, sixth ether was ruling. This is why you as a race was coming out of that 6,000 year rule. And you were coming out of that rule in a way where you were you coming out abused. It's like you've been in a 6-day boxing match. And for 6,000 years, your whole race has been trampled upon by these Adamites coming into the lands, destroying your culture, replacing your languages, replacing your deities, replacing your holy books, and trampling over you, placing you under a spell, whipping you, beating you. And all of a sudden, in the last 30 years of the 6,000 year rule, the Father had incarnate. Our deity says, time, the new cycle is coming in. We have to awaken our children. The Father incarnates. So from 1970 to the year 2000 was 30 minutes where you had to be taught in order for you to come into 2000, which is the new cycle, coming out of the old cycle. So what you're seeing amongst the American Negro and the Black African race, you're seeing the residue of spiritual bondage coming out of this last cycle. So as you're coming out of this cycle, some people are just waking up. When you come to this Actual Facts podcast or this channel and you visit a different map raw and you get in touch with the Father who is here to awaken you, then it's like you feel like you was in a dream, because it was a whole bunch of lies, and you like, this is what really happened. So sometimes you slip back into sleep, and somebody got to wake you up again. It's like, no, listen, look at this verse, look at this book, look what they say here, and you wake back up, and because you're now just getting out of bed. When you get out of bed, you like in a groggy state. You're right now, you should, in the last 60 years, the Father's been teaching, you should be well awakened by now. And now the children of Panatharu, you all, are now waking up, and you have a responsibility for the next 6,000 years, 6,000 year cycles. In our rule, we are ruling now. That's why I said it's our time. The Father says it's our time. What you have to do on your own is already there. You have to have your own nation. You have to have your own language. You have to acknowledge your own gods, your own deities, your own culture, your own clothing, your own dress. Right? You have to be who you are to the world, because that once that residue, sixth ether, that haze and fog, it dissipates. Appreciate that. I shook them all. Love you more. Love you all, the support. This is why the sixth ether is dissipating. The Adamites' power, they have no power over you like they used to. You never questioned before. The more you question, the more you realize he don't know what he's talking about. Their doctrine, their books, their documents that keeps me in bondage are fraudulent. Their constitution was built on colonialism and slavery. So that can't be a legal document. So they can't literally have jurisdiction over my mind, body, and soul. So the Father has come to reestablish that for you and your generations, the children. So what we're doing now with the Nuwapian nation, the Nubian nation, and our various channels out in the nation, throughout the world, right? Wherever you find us, we'll all fall up under the nation that you can be a part of, that you have to prepare for. Because you're just out of bed, you don't see the mission in a few hours when you got to go to work, or you got to go, whatever happens during your day, after you brush your teeth and wash up and shower and you get refreshed. You don't really see your day until that takes place. You don't really see what's being done right now with the nation until that awake, until you begin to wake. These actual facts become digested in your being. So when we say go vote, yeah, we saying go vote. You don't know, really understand, but the picture will become more and more clear when the devil says, I never had control over you anyway. You gave the devil his power. You gave him his authority. You accepted his heroes. You accepted his God. You accepted his Jehovah. You accepted his biblical text. You accepted their Quran. You voluntarily not necessarily voluntarily. A lot of it was done through force. Most of it was done through force and influence. The point is that once you realize that you are your own nation, you cannot be up under anyone else. No one has authority over your mind, body. Then you'll realize what we're doing with the Nuwapian nation and why it's important to join the nation. It's easy to join. You're already a Nuwapian, so it's not something you have to convert to. This is not a religion where you have to convert to a specific doctrine. No, facts are accepted. You hear it, it makes sense, you accept it. That's what it is. And so go vote. Someone asked about the vote. It all ties in. This liberation, this new day and time, the devil's dominion, his power's up. So if the devil's power's up and the African race are standing there, they have to give everything back. Then what do you have to give them in replace? What do we have? We say we're deities. We say we're the students of the Father in flesh, God in flesh incarnated for us and gave us this. What do we have? We have to put it in motion. What do we give to the people once we snatch the rug of religion from up under them? Once we snatch the lies, once we snatch the corruption, once we snatch the deception, what do we give them? You have to give them Wusabat. You have to give them their spiritual science. You have to give them the doctrine of the Father. You have to give them their own president. We have our own president. You have to give them their own culture. What do you give the feminine? You have to give the feminine roles that they can follow and acknowledge as African roles. Black African, you don't have that for the feminine, the girls growing up. You have a problem with the feminine and their behaviors because you haven't lifted up the feminine enough so your daughters can have an example to follow of spiritual practice that ties into your own deities. So we have to give them that. Any questions? I'm opening up the floor. I shook Fatah Amon. I appreciate everyone. I hope you all voted. Let's get into that. You want to get into that, or is it clear? Or do we need to answer any more questions in reference to this lecture? No questions? Some people had some questions. Let me scroll back. Is there a certain time for certain individuals' DNA to come alive? No, it's no certain time, but it's a gradual process. Some people, it's called, the Father explained that you receive DNA explosions. When you receive a DNA explosion, that means it happens. It's like, damn, you wake up like, what? I didn't see that. I never knew it was explained like that. That's what we experience when you experience the Father, when he's home, because you brought him home, because you freed him, because you voted and you chose your nation, because you done that and you experience what he has to give, your mind will be blown. Because the things he has to tell us and the things he has to teach us, is going to cause your DNA to awaken. He's awakening it through this actual facts and podcast. So every person has a time where they begin to waken up. Some people heard about Dr. Malachi York 5 years ago, but the doctrine didn't hit them until it became like extraterrestrial mainstream. All of a sudden you wake up and everybody's talking about extraterrestrial doctrine. How did that happen? It's because we were talking about it on Clubhouse. And we were talking about it throughout the episodes. We began to teach about it, right? I'm saying on the internet, where people begin to understand that, okay, it's something more to it than what we're being told. And the governments around the world now begin to disclose this extraterrestrial files. So this is a part of what has to take place. Yes, we will. When you say return to Africa, are you speaking to on the second Egypt, Africa, America, the first Egypt? I appreciate that, but the first Egypt, second Egypt, America, we had this discussion about the first Egypt, second Egypt, and America being considered Egypt. If America was considered Egypt, that means the Egyptians had migrated to the Americas thousands of years ago and set up their new lands. They set up a new Egypt or an Egypt in the West, which we did. we did it again in the year 1992, on June 26. So wherever we establish and build our cities is going to be a reflection of the culture and the language and the system and the spiritual science that our ancestors gave us through genes, through our heavenly ones, to and establish the replicas for the world to see. So when we say Africa, first you have to come back to an African mind. And that's a sovereign mind, to say I'm a part of a sovereign nation that is not, right, governed by other races. That's the first step. The place physically is the second step. The first step is being a part of our state of mind first. The state of mind is the first establishment. When you vote, you're saying Dr. Malachi Z. York is the head of right reasoning, right knowledge, right wisdom. He's the head that gave us this affirmation that awakened us to become in a state of our own, a natural state of existence never experienced before on the planet. People born in nations, they're born naturally in an environment that is a reflection of their descendancy and ancestors. They don't have to go look other places to experience or express themselves. So when you're born in the state of Nuapia, that means you're born in a state that you are already accepting the knowledge of your bloodline, the culture, the language, the deities that are here for you. You're born or reborn in that mind, meaning you have a Nuapian state of mind. Then, once that mind of cooperation and unity and love, because you're all on the same accord, on the same page, you're all chanting and praying, right? On the same manner, you've all voted for the same president, your same sovereign, your spiritual master that's guiding you in this day and time, because you need the guidance in order to take those steps. Then you'll be able to cooperate on the land because you know what to do. So it's a process. So when I say Africa, going back to Africa, the first thing is you have to accept the mind of what an African is. I'm not talking about the colonized people, because our continent needs help too. I'm here on the continent. Our people need help. We were there for the father was there in America teaching for 30, 40, 50 years. Now he's saying, now the continent, Africa, our people needs this doctrine as well. It's not to exclude the diaspora, but we have opened the door. My job, a lot of people don't know, we were responsible for the door, the year of return, the opening of the year of return. That was our project, and then we're going to put it on the website. You can see that was the father, as the ambassador, came to our country, came back, right, and requested that they open the door. The government of Ghana acknowledged that and did it for us, for you, for the Nuwapians, for the diaspora in 2019. That's when it happened. And the request was done in 2009 from Dr. Malachi Z. York. And the government even said, listen, we are opening the door for you all. Y'all can become citizens. You can have your dual citizenship. People of the Nuwapian family, we welcome you. This is something that we're looking for. And this is what the opening was. But a lot of the diaspora never came through to the Father's homeland. It's not that you can't, but a lot of times, often tragedy has to take place in order for our people to get fire up under their behinds. When it's things you got to do, it's something that you got to, an emergency, then it's like, oh, shoot, what do we do? Let's organize. People get together and start handing out food and getting canned goods and feeding the homeless and doing humanitarian works when it's of a tragedy. But you shouldn't have to do that with it because of a tragedy or trauma or some event that is causing human lives. You should be able to do it to prepare for the next 50 years. That's the goal. In order to pray and manifest, go to the website, the United, let me put it in. And also email for books. I'm going to put it also in the, what you call the description. Soon you'll be able to get all of the books from their website. Our people on the continent need the information, so we're going to make it available for them. That's the website, okay? That's a good question. I see a question. 1 second. That's a great question. And if you go to the website, the question for the chants, go to the bottom. You'll see ancient chants and tones. You'll see the lesson from the Father, our chief, our supreme grandmaster, the Heavenly Father in flesh, God in flesh. His Excellency Panababya, Dr. Malachi York. You'll see what he's written about your prayers and how you should chant and how you should pray. And you can download it free. A lot of those downloads are free for your perusal. Now, the question is Amun-Ra the same person as Murder? No, but the attribute is the same. These are titles. Remember, Amun-Ra is a title. So he was known, he did have an Egyptian name or Egyptian title. Sometimes the titles conflicted on the characters because the beings who try to translate, particularly the Adamite and his descendants, try to translate and decipher these texts. They were confusing what deities were which. But that question, I will go, that's a good, who's that? Okay, so email, that question is good, is a topic of the lecture because we have to address our Natharu and the relationship between them and the Anunnaki. Did Panatharu help the Anunnaki with the breeding? Yes, they did. Ptah helped Enki with the breeding, the genetic breeding, so they could rule according to the rules of natural nature. They didn't help them to rule over you. That wasn't the intentions. You have to remember that Adamite became evil because of the Nephilim breeding their evil seed in their genetics. They were already bred from 3 animals and the Pleiadians. The Pleiadians was used. They don't look at it. Stop. We'll get to that point. The Pleiadians seed was used. The Anunnaki seed was used. The porcine, the mammal, the canine. This is why you see they related to canines. You see the 6 ether fur. They have gray eyes like a wolf. Depends on the subspecies of Adamites. You have the red and you have pale. You have 2 types. So other seed breeds was used, but the genetic part of the mitochondria that was needed to eliminate, Enki had an issue with in the gene. I'm giving you the issue or concern where Ptah, our Natharu, assisted the genetic process by showing him how to allow foreign DNA to be injected into the cell nucleus without being rejected, because there was a problem with the edges of the mitochondria. It will stick to the foreign DNA and destroy it, and it wouldn't allow it to sit inside of the genes and, let's say, not generate, yeah, cells regenerate. So Fatah has showed him how to, right, with the intercellular functions, how to create or allow the cell or manipulate the cell to allow foreign DNA to infiltrate the cell without it being destroyed. This is how extraterrestrial beings were able to mix their genes without foreign genes, without it eliminating or trying to destroy. Like in your cells, sometimes your immune system turns on your cells, and that's a medical condition. I forgot the exact name, where your immune system turns on itself. Well, the same thing with the feminine. When a sperm cell, a foreign cell, even though it's human, it's foreign, the body of the feminine will attack it. That was a problem with the Pleiadians and the other species being mixed in with this Adamite. It was rejecting certain cells. So Fatah assisted, not with the intentions of breeding the Adamite so it could be evil to rule over Africans. That wasn't the process. So I can only, in this short period of time, without actually, the father covers so much, it's literally so much, you have to bring it together in order for the lecture to be clear. So that's what I do, so it can be clear. But the specifics, I would definitely address that sister's question with your question, because you're talking about the Anunnaki and the Nathar, Panatharu, our overseers. And people are not aware of the correlation and how these particular civilizations intermingle and were actually cross-culturally exchanging their information, text, etc. So I'll go into that. And how, because one of the reasons the issue between the Lord and the gods of the Mesopotamian, the biblical gods, and the Egyptian gods, if you look at the story of Abraham, because he lied to the Pharaoh about Sarah being his sister instead of his wife, created conflict between this Lord and the deities of Egypt. That was one of the conflicts that was created. When you read the story, you'll see that if he hadn't lied, then the plagues from the Lord, which is ironic because it shows the deceit of this Nanar character, allowing Abraham to lie just so he could send plagues to the Pharaoh for having sex with his wife. Why did Abraham lie? Why didn't the Lord Yahweh, or this being Nanar Enlil, tell Abraham, don't lie to the Pharaoh because it's going to create conflict? So he's enjoying this type of conflict and violence and sending plagues and these type of things because they have a doctrine, as we spoke about before, that speaks against the Pharaoh and the Egyptians. Okay, because the moon cycle was coming in, did they have to have a being to rule for that 6 ether cycle? Oh, that's a good question. I don't know if they had to have a being rule. By natural process, beings do rule in that cycle. It's not that they have to have one. It's like saying, do you have to have a winter? Not necessarily have to have it, but that cycle represents the dying out of the previous cycle. So in natural nature and unnatural nature in the universe, cycles are continuous because cycles are created by matter, which are the manifestation in the material world. So any planet, any sun, any solar system, any galaxy, they already have their cycles by natural nature that they are ruled by. So it's not that they had to have it, it's just that in that time, 6 ether was ruling already. I hope that's clear. So the Adamites creation and the moon cycle, all of that is still a part of that 6,000 years. It's like saying, how many storms can you get in the wintertime? You may get a storm in November, a storm in December. That's the type of events of 6 ether activities that was taking place for the last 6,000 years. Wars, slavery, deception, pillaging of lands, all types of things that was being done, event after event after event, in that sixth ether ruling cycle of Leviathan. I hope that's clear. So yeah, I'll definitely make a what do you call a episode on that. Your questions bring episodes, so don't be afraid. Even if you're new, you can ask a question. This is not just for people who are all about Wusabat. Yes, there are people here that are all about Wusabat, but there's others that are just learning. And we all had that particular time where we stepped into the doctrine. It's like, wow, it's so much to learn. Where do I start? The answer to the question about the language video, yes, we're gonna have videos being put up about the language. So I'm looking to have someone who can constantly monitor the channel so we can make sure videos are up outside of the lectures, because there's so much that'll be done, right? That in between times you need to be getting these actual facts in between the 9th, the 19th, and the 27th. So we're working on that. But as you see, we're growing at an incredible pace. And also, if you want to join the nation, go to join. There's a join button at the bottom of the screen. If you on your phone or online on the desktop, just click join. You can put in your information and click join. You won't receive an email as of yet, but know that your email is received. And as many people that have joined, you will receive an email very soon. And the email will give you the future steps to secure your place within the nation. And yes, is also, if you have any questions and concerns, to contact us. You can contact us as well. If you have questions, you can contact us through that portal. Typically, people was contacting it through the email, which is fine. You can still do that. But eventually, over time, we're shifting everyone through the website, because that's where you'll have everything available to you. All of your products, all of your books, all of your cultural attire, all of your paperwork, your identification, the people that have certificates, you have licenses, you can get all of those things under the Nuwapian Nation banner, because you already qualified in other systems. You've already met the criteria. So it's not a difficult process to shift. We're shifting everything over to the nation. So when it's time, you already be in place. So it's going to take time for preparation. But by the time you see us and Bob at the Father's home, when your vote is finished and we're done, you're going to see the nation in an incredible way. That's how it works. And that's how it's going to happen. So thanks. That was my next question. Okay, great. Any other questions? Do we do a lesson? Okay, yes, the language. Yes, I will. We have to have that. We have to have the language on here for you all. And we're going to have a language portal on the site where you can get all of the information that's needed for the language. So all of the lessons, everything will be centralized. You get all of your links. You get all of the books, Patarak, Actual Facts, Master Secrets, and older books. You get all of the PDF files that the Father wants you to have. The Let My Words Be Known, you'll be able to download everything. You'll be able to download. This is for the world, for those that are not in contact with bookstores and things of that nature. This is ideal for our people who are scattered across the globe, because the Father wants you all to understand what's taking place, and He wants the 144,000 to have this knowledge. And you may be in a distant place, and you may feel alone, and you're a Nuwapian. Don't feel alone. You will be connected through the website. So that's it. I did have some also for those that are going to be a part of the campaign. I'm gonna put the social downloads up there. The campaign is going strong. It may be quiet to you, but you may not see it. But you have to make it known, and you have to share it to the people. We'll put it on social media. We got a campaign that's going strong. In about a week or two, we're going to put a massive media campaign for the Now or Never vote. We just started. It's just a few weeks. We have time. So everything, website info. Yes, the website info, I'll pin it. Let me pin it to the top. And it will be in what you call the It will be in the description box. Okay. Yeah. So I'll put. I think it should be there. I'll pin it to the right here. The United. Did I spell it? That font is very small here. Make sure I spelt it correctly. Okay. You see the pin message. So any questions or you have, you can definitely go through the site, UnitedNewWapianNation.com. You can go there and vote. You can go there, ask your questions, contact us. You can go there and join the nation, and you get all the information on our sacred orders. We're adding every day. It just launched on the 26th, so we're adding every day. You're going to see the books come up. You're going to see the products come up. You're going to see. It's going to be amazing. A one-stop shop for the nation globally. You're welcome. Any other questions? So I hope I'm clear on that tree of life and the explanation that the Father gives us on these public. Let me show you the publication so you'll understand what books he's in reference to. The books that we have that he speaks about this topic and others. For those that I did have to give books to, I hope you received them. For those that I owe books to, I'm not ignoring you. Your message just may have went to the bottom of the sometimes emails come in and it's pushed down. So don't feel like I'm too busy. Some people say, I know you're busy. Yes, I'm busy, but I'm busy helping you all. I'm busy helping the nation. I'm busy assisting the Father on his freedom. So it's nothing that I'm too busy. I'm not too busy to be doing my job. So you all are priority. So don't think that, okay, I may be busy. Now send the email, reach out. It's not, I respond to emails as quick as I can. If I'm tied up doing something, I try to get back to you as soon as possible, because it's the souls of the people that's involved. The Father teaches that we are fishers of men to reach the souls of the people. This is one of the books that speaks about the tree of life, right? And yeah, who was the serpent in Genesis in the garden? Hold on one second. I have my book spread out. This is the other here. This is a very Pashajar Shalal Hayat, the tree of life, and also the Akasha records. This is also available. Give me a few days. It will be available for those that want it. Okay, so let me see any questions here. Where will the nation be established? The nation is being established. Nations are established in the hearts and the minds of the people. The land right now is occupied by colonizers, and we're going through the legal remedy to make sure that we have our land. Tamaray is our headquarters. Tamaray is our capital seat. And you can check on the site. Go to the site. You have all of the information. Go to About Us. When you go to About Us, scroll down to click on our land. You can click on the flags, the emblems, and it'll take you to our land page. It gives you all of the information on our land, when it was established, where our nation is. Everything is there. For now, just to start, for basic information for those that are tuning in and want to be introduced to Wu Sabat, introduced to the nation, who you are as a free, liberated, sovereign person, not sovereign citizen. I'm not saying that. That's an oxymoron. You can't be a sovereign citizen. We're not that Moorish crap that they've been trying to use, get people locked up, talk about sovereign citizen. No, we are a real nation, a nation of people with laws, government, president, everything is involved, land, and we're fighting for your freedom from the 13 colonies. All freedom fighters had colonialists they were fighting against. And now we're fighting against the Georgia colony because we understand what they did to us. So that's our move. So the nation is already established. You already have a flag. You already have an Independence Day, June 26, 1992. You already have a culture. You already have a language. You already have an indigenous land. We already built capital. Everything was done. and then we're at war with the evil one. And so we are the warriors that are fighting for what's ours and our future. It's now or never, and that's what our campaign is about. It's called the Now or Never campaign. If you don't vote now, you don't get involved now, trying to get involved in the future is going to be very difficult because it's going to be chaotic. And you don't want to be in chaos trying to create order. That's not how it works. When chaos hit, the 144,000, you all should already be in place. Don't be waiting to try to be a part of something because you're trying to see if what I'm saying or what the Father's saying is facts. He's been teaching these facts since 1970, and nothing has changed. Everything he says is all wise, right, and exact. You may not see it today, but you'll see it. You may not see it in 2 years. When he spoke about these extraterrestrials and these beings in 1997, 96, when he was breaking the spell about these Yahweh beings and this religious doctrine, when he put out the book, Is God a Whip? It flabbergasted everybody because we were not even prepared to be exposed to who these beings are. But him as an extraterrestrial in flesh, as of the Nathard in flesh, when he began to expose it, it was 20 years ahead. Now, as we speak, when people talk about extraterrestrials, you come to this channel and we have entire lectures, 3 and 4 hour lectures on the topic with books and references because we were prepared for this day and time. So this is something that we do for you all. So it's not a burden. We're not busy, too busy with life. This is our life. Wu Sabat, the doctrine of nation building is our life. We are of the covenant that our future, our children, your children, right? The women of our race, our elders right now that are alive need to experience what true freedom is, not for what someone else says or what someone gives us permission to do. We're not doing that anymore. Nobody's asking nobody permission. Nobody's marching. Nobody's protesting. Nobody's asking you, the slave master, for a bigger piece of chicken. And when you give us some extra food, we're okay going back to we're not doing that anymore. We have our own, and that's what we're going to stick to. For, of, and by the people of Nuapia. That's what it is. So, any other questions? Yes, of the same mind. We don't have to ask nobody. I don't ask to speak. We don't ask to wear our cultural attire. We don't ask to wear our symbols. The seal of Yanun. We don't ask to worship our own gods. We can worship your own deities if you want. You ain't got to be afraid somebody gonna burn you up because you don't want to worship them. I don't want if that is your way of trying to control human beings by burning them up, that's wicked. We don't need you anyway. Because you as a God, as a true God, should be able to control the people with your mind. You was able to say, let there be light. You was able to say, let there be land. You was able to say, you can't say, let there be good and my people in a safe place. It's only convenient when you want, but you want to burn your children. That is wickedness. We don't worship deities or gods like that. If y'all still want to worship somebody that's going to burn you up and gets jealous and mad and angry and throws a temper tantrum when things don't go his way, if that's the type of God, then you have a narcissistic Yahweh. You have a narcissistic type being, because that's what narcissists do. You give them free will, and the moment they don't do what you say with the free gift, they don't open it the way you want. They don't wear the shirt the way you want them to wear it. You want to take it back and throw them in the garbage and kick them out the house and burn them, kick them out the garden and burn and hurt all of the descendants of women for 1 cent. All the women right now feel labor pains because it's something he knew was going to happen. So women right now feel labor pains for something that they're not even responsible for. Right now, men have to work by the sweat of their brow because of what? You failed to keep this so-called devil, as you claim he is, out of the garden? No, that's a weak, wicked being. And we don't have to worship. The moment you give him back, you'll stop receiving hell. Stop accepting hell-giving beings in your life, and you won't receive hell. You accept the being that's going to judge you and give you hell, and so you still around him, and you know he can give you hell. Get away from them. Find a being that's going to give you heaven and promise you heaven if you make sure you acknowledge them and respect them and not look for punishment. Yes. So, any other questions? Oh, yes, I see your question. Thanks for that. Yes. The Wapians, the black race, are you? Okay, I appreciate you tuning in, sister. It's a Maltet. Thank you for the questions. It's good. It is for, because Africans as a whole, as a people, right? Africans as a people, we have a reasoning mind. That's how you're born. Every black person, every African race, whether you brown, partly melanated, you have the deities, you have the mind of the gods. Reasoning, we deal with actual facts. Everything, your life, from the moment you're born, you were dependent on the facts in order to exist. Your mother, you knew where food was coming from your mother's breast, even as an infant. The moment you came out the womb, you was doing this, looking for the breast. Why? Because you knew it was substance in that breast. No one told you that. No one put that in your mind. The baby naturally begins to suck. Why don't babies naturally cry or bite when they're taken from the breast? Why? Because it's in the genes. So because reasoning and knowledge is in the genetics, it's still there. It's what happens is that when you're born into a society where Christianity, Islam, Judaism are the influencing religious belief doctrines in the society, it overlays reasoning out of fear. And that's what the Father's trying to getting you to eliminate the fear you have of questioning. You've been that first step. The moment you eliminate fear of questioning, then you become the God that you're supposed to become, because they introduce fear by you asking questions. If you ask a question, don't question God. Don't question Allah. When you go to school, if you have any questions, raise your hand. That's how you're going to learn. You go to college, raise your hand. You have questions. Professor, yes, I'd like to know such and such. When you go to church, don't ask. Just believe. Believe that angels have wings. Believe that God is on the throne, sitting there, watching everything, doing nothing, and watching the devil have a party in his house that he claims he loves. According to John 3:16, God so loved the world, but yet the devil is in his playground. That's when you stop questioning. So every African has a reasoning inside, and that's what has to come out. So you asking that question is you're pulling the reasoning out. The doctrine pulls it out of you. It goes into your genes and gets down to the original seed and say, no, you have your own. You're powerful. You're royal. You have the power of the universe in your hand. Just give them back everything and you're okay. There's nothing bad, but it's nothing wrong with giving back poison. If you don't understand it, give it back. Say, look, I need more explanation before I begin to give my soul, my heart, and my mind into these buildings. I go into these buildings of stone and brick and wood, and you say that your God, your divine God, is in this building. He's not in no other stone building nowhere on the planet except this one, because you got a name and a symbol of a cross on top. That's what's taking place. So because in this building where you claim God is, right, and divine is, I come in there, and this God is asking me for things now. He's asking me for donations. He's asking me for money. The same being you said put gold and diamonds and all the wealth, he wants me to give him something to show that I'm loyal, right? But yet I can't ask him, when is he going to remove the devil, his enemy, off the planet? That doesn't make sense. Those lies and games is over. All that sounds ridiculous right now, listening to these actual facts. When you get raised up by the Father and he teaches you, and you take in the word of God and it transforms you, that stuff starts sounding really, really crazy. It almost sounds like a mental issue, like there's some psychological is going on with religious people. That spell is deep. So you got to remove the spell. Thank you for voting. Yes, appreciate it. Share the vote. You're not just voting for Dr. Malachi York as your president. You're voting for everything. Your liberation. You're letting your ancestors know you don't want to be a part of their system no more. You're letting your gods know that I accept you. Help us get us out of this mess, and we're doing it. The helping hand you're looking for is at the end of your own arm, and that's what the Nuwapian Nation is doing. I appreciate you all. All right, so we don't have to go 3 hours today, do we? We're close to it, but so make sure you email if you want any of the publications. Also, make sure you vote. Look out for updates online. Look out for more videos that's going to be uploaded. We're going to upload a vote video as well, so you can see the importance of strictly vote. It's not on the live side; it's on the video side. Yeah. So, anything else? I appreciate you all. Thank you all for voting. Spread the word. We're moving strong. We got some good news coming up very, very soon. So, if no questions, appreciate that. All right, Wadu, take care. Hope you enjoyed the lecture. I hope it was good. Take care. Okay, so I see the question come in before I ended it. The lives are the 9th, the 19th, and the 27th. Okay? 3 times a month. Yes, exactly. See you on the 27th.